Uganda is talked about to be among those countries that have very high rates of corruption. And it is one of those problems that have persisted in our way of life as a country. But why? And what are we doing as a country to see that we curb the vice to have a normal life? Government is doing a number of things. Besides Parliament, the IGG, Auditor General, and other institutions that have a mandate to fight corruption, we also have the State House Anti-Corruption Unit, headed by Colonel Edith Nakalema Asizwa. We have her on the show, and we want to get to know a number of things of how she works, what exactly the unit she heads has to do with corruption and the fight in general, how much achievements have they registered, what are the parameters of their work, and a lot more, but still in the line of corruption. So join me, welcome Afande Nakalema Edith Asizwa. Honorable. So I beg, Afande, you're most welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
But again, you're honorable, so we'll take it like that.
I am not honorable, I am a soldier.
Okay.
Always on the front line wherever I am deployed.
Wow.
Yes, so I cannot be a honorable. I am only a servant.
So how are you?
I am fine, and I thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about the fight against corruption.
You deserve it.
Which needs everyone's hand, everyone's eye, everyone's leg.
You deserve the opportunity.
Thank you
Yes.
very much.
So we are talked about as one of those countries, not only in the region, in the continent, the world, we are too corrupt. First of all, is it true? It being now that you're one of those people at the center to fight the vice, you must be having the figures. Is it true we are that too much corrupt, like people say?
I wouldn't say yes or no, but the reality remains that there is corruption all over the world. Corruption has existed from the time man existed. So corruption is rampant. In our country, the outcry is so much, and therefore I cannot deny the fact that Uganda is among the countries that are talked about to have many corrupt persons.
Okay.
You will recall that we, as the State House Anti-Corruption Unit, came into existence. So when His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, in exercising his powers under the Constitution, Article 99, 1, he established very many helplines and launched the State House Anti-Corruption Unit on the 10th of December 2018. From that time, we have seen a lot of people trust us with many cases, others not even related to corruption, because it was about, you see people wanting to report everything that hurts them. So it tells us that people are yearning for help from all sides or from across the country. There is need for a listening ear about what is hurting the citizens.
So the cases you receive, you may base that to at least tell the rate.
Oh yes, yes. The rate is high.
Okay.
Because the State House Anti-Corruption Unit, from that time when His Excellency the President launched the unit, our call center is 24-hour. All the time we are receiving complaints, and on average, the Anti-Corruption Unit receives 200 complaints per day. You can imagine.
Wow.
And we are just a unit, a very, very agile unit. But thankfully, the public has trusted us, and we've been able to walk some mile together with the citizens.
We'll get to that, Honorable Afande. Now, as the Anti-Corruption Unit, State House Anti-Corruption Unit, you are in the fight. But before, we had the IGG, Parliament, the Auditor General's Office, police, the investigation kind of units in the different security agencies.
Yes.
Why do you think the problem was persistent even before you came?
The problem is actually still persisting.
Can corruption be bigger than all of those institutions?
yes, it is bigger because corruption is everywhere and nearly with everyone, wherever they are. Corruption starts in our homes. It goes to schools where we send our children. It, of course, definitely goes with them to high institutions of learning, and they graduate back to the society when they are already corrupt. The first teacher must be a parent. So since corruption is everywhere and with everybody, it definitely needs everyone's attention, everyone's will and zeal to fight it. Therefore, institutions are not the only ones supposed to fight corruption. It is every person's responsibility to fight corruption by denying a bribe, never to take a bribe, never to ask for it, never to allow anyone to ask a bribe, the one you can reach, or the one you know, or the one you see, or the one you work with, or the one you live with, since it starts from homes and families.
Afande, when you say it's not institutions, then why do we have them?
The institutions are supposed to coordinate. And I will remind you, Michael, that His Excellency the President was very clear when he launched the State House Anti-Corruption Unit. He told the public that our work was to okusesamu is the word he used, or the Runyankore call it okwinejeza, to push the fire that was already lit. Meaning that there were many institutions that we had to work with. And one of our key among the tasks we were given was to coordinate with all anti-corruption agencies, also ministries and agencies, to ensure that the citizens are heard and are helped. So the main role of the anti-corruption unit is to receive complaints from the citizens and coordinate with other mandated agencies to get the citizens helped or to get solutions.
Okay.
So we work very, very closely with other agencies, and that's how we have been able to move forward. We don't work in isolation as the State House Anti-Corruption Unit.
How different are your roles in terms of operations? That is, for example, the IGG's office, the Auditor General's office. How different are your roles as the three entities fighting the same problem?
Okay, I will remind you, Michael, and maybe our viewers, that the State House Anti-Corruption Unit's work, again, is to receive all complaints that are reported to the unit and relay them to other institutions, but also follow up to the conclusion. There are complaints that we investigate and stop at the DPP's level. So we work with other anti-corruption agencies. The cases that are reported to us and are already maybe reported to other agencies, we have to ensure that we don't duplicate the work.
Okay.
We have to find out who is handling what. But clearly, we as State House Anti-Corruption Unit, the investigators are all the police detectives. So Uganda police forces are the only ones with the mandate to investigate anyone, anywhere, but also, of course, with corruption, the lead agency remains the Inspectorate of Government, the IG, yes, led by the IGG. The IGG remains the lead agency for the fight against corruption. The Auditor General is there to prove any loss caused to government, financial loss caused to government agencies.
Yes.
PPDA is there to prove fraudulent procurement or to guide on the right ways of procuring or disposing of government properties. That is the work of PPDA. So, and the prosecutors, of course, are all for under the office of DPP, or the DPP is the only one allowed to prosecute any person or public servant. So we work closely with these agencies. We don't work in isolation. We can't do anything without these sister agencies in the fight against corruption.
Is that why the problem is persistent? Because the IG's office has been here, the police has been here with the same methods of work, and now here you came and only joined them.
Yes, the problem will be solved if we all work together. I have seen for sure that if every citizen took it a responsibility, like the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda mandates every citizen to combat corruption, to stop public wastage. It is in the Constitution that every citizen is supposed to combat wastage of public resources or fight against or eliminate the corrupt, if I may put it that way. These institutions are all working, are all fighting corruption. We are all working together and we are moving the same direction, but we need citizens to join us. We need everyone to be involved in the fight against corruption by reporting the corrupt, but also refusing to be corrupt. If each individual decided not to be corrupt and also to stop the corrupt those he or she can reach or talk to at school, in institutions, in our places of work, surely we shall eliminate corruption in our country, working together. We need collective efforts in the fight against corruption.
Why do you think as Uganda, imagine 7 tall men in a village running after one thief for 7 days? Yes, why is corruption still persistent? What are those factors that our people should look at and probably try to avoid?
Michael, the thieves, like I said, corruption is everywhere.
Yes, but if our case...
Institutions are actually few. How I wish there would even be more. Because since corruption is everywhere, these few institutions led by the IGG, the Auditor General's work, which is auditing all government institutions, to generalize, the PPDA. Now, DPP, for the office of DPP is not only for corruption, it's for every case.
Yes.
They prosecute everyone with a case. Uganda Police, the institutions are still not enough. But anyway,
in comparison to the magnitude of the problem,
the government has put every institution in place. Us who are manning the institutions,
you're doing whatever you have to do.
We are doing what we can, but maybe we have not done what we are expected to do. So maybe why corruption is still persisting, it is because the people who are in the offices have not used their full potential to fight corruption by making partnerships or partnering with all the citizens. That's what is lacking. But I will tell you that why in my view, the persisting corruption is as a result of moral decadence.
Okay.
The moral fiber in this country has kind of decayed and gone so low. Therefore, we need every concerned citizen to get up and discipline the people around them, starting with their children. We must start with our children to raise a better generation. We must start. We have to also discipline the people we work with or we work. Those we work for should look at us in offices in the line of keeping our moral authority high. Corruption is a moral issue, and that's why it is everywhere and with everybody. We need these institutions that are supposed to lead us in the right direction in terms of morals and integrity. The churches, the mosques, the cultural institutions or cultural leaders, those are supposed to be the ones taking lead in the fight against corruption, because it's a moral issue, and I'm not sure that there will be any government official who will change the mind and the heart it has to be the ones that God put in positions or gave the gift of preaching and teaching and evangelizing the human beings or humanity about living a straightforward life, fearing for each other.
How much have you involved the people you're calling for? In your works, you, the institutions that are the lead of fighting this vice? Because we hear these men of God in the mosques, in the churches, they're singing these things. How much do you involve them in your works?
We try our best. I will tell you that one of our strategies as the State House Anti-Corruption Unit is to partner with religious leaders, with cultural leaders, with heads of institutions, schools, colleges, universities. I have personally had an engagement with the leadership of Makerere University, with the leadership of Uganda Christian Uganda UCU.
Uganda Christian University.
Uganda Christian University, both the main branch in Mukono and the one in Kampala. I am in close touch with the Mufit, His Eminence Mubaje. I also visited, one time I visited, I don't want to mess the title, but I visited the head of Chiburi Mosque.
Okay. The prince?
Yes,
the
Prince Kasim. Okay. Yes, yes, I visited him. So and I, of course, I don't go alone. I go with the people I work with, not the heads of other institutions. I don't give those directives, but the ones I work with in Anti-Corruption Unit, we are trying to make partnerships with these religious leaders. Many of the religious leaders, indeed men of God, are our partners in the fight against corruption. I'll tell you like that when Bishop
and in fact their preachings show.
Oh yes. When
what
Bishop
I want to know, Afande,
organized the conference, they called us to go and make a presentation about our strategy in the fight against corruption. So we've been engaging through seminars, through visiting them in their institutions or churches and mosques, and so we are calling upon everyone, and we still maintain the fact that we want to partner with every citizen.
As a country, have we defined corruption ideally well? Maybe we are fighting something we have really not known. We are running after a night dancer we have not identified. Have we really identified and defined what corruption is as we fight it? Couldn't that be one of the reasons as to why it's persistent?
Now, corruption can be defined by everyone.
Because why I'm asking that, just to add on what I've asked, many people think it is the 5,000 I may give a police officer on the road. But when you meet Ugandans in a trading center, they will tell you, no. Thank God Nabanja is here. How can somebody buy beans? And the other day we had this. The other day we had this. You get. So people confuse different cases at different levels, and probably the answer fails to be found there. Have we identified and defined what corruption is as we fight it?
Michael and our dear viewers, I will tell you that in my view, corruption is anything that disorganizes anyone in any way. Because once anyone is determined to do something right, or determined to do what he or she was assigned to do, and then someone comes to divert them, to take them a different way in any way, whether by a bribe, whether by any sort of injustice, it is corruption. Indeed, citizens have failed, not all, but a big section of citizens, they have failed to differentiate what corruption cases are and those that are not. I will clearly tell you that at Anti-Corruption Unit of State House, we are nearly getting overstretched because people report anything, including some of my sisters in homes and families who call in they call our toll-free line to say Nakalema lwaki totuyamba abasajja nga batusobedde mu maka muno abasajja tebakyagula munnyo tebaleeta kantuko naawe akagoli eyo tuulira oyamba tuyambire wano ebintu tusobedde. Can you imagine someone is telling you that now the husband is not buying salt, no food at home, Nakalema come and help. Of course you feel sorry when these information officers come and tell me there are many women crying to your fund, they need help. Those are social issues or welfare issues, but they feel like it is injustice to them, it is a pain to them.
Somebody should come to their rescue.
They want help. You will not ignore them. I need sometimes when I have time, I call back to say, sorry about that, but mpesimu y'omwami njogereko naye oba oliawo naye ayinamu ebizibu. So I have to console them and say, okay, we will talk to...
Even when you know it's not your role,
of course
but
that is
for
not
matters, for matters of peace.
To give someone counsel. So there is no specific definition of corruption. Anything that affects a human being is corruption, in my view, because once there is no justice, once there is unfairness, that is corruption, in my view. I also have failed to say this is corruption, this is not, where there is injustice or where there is unfairness or where there is a crime committed.
Afande, we are now talking about resource, use of public resource. How do we fail to know what we are fighting?
When you go to the scorers, they define corruption as wastage of public resources, as
misappropriation.
Yes, of course, corruption has many, should I say, types. There is bribery, there is embezzlement, there is connivance, there is soliciting, many ways. But all those are, it is unfairness, it is injustice, it all causes
what is more evident
discomfort.
In our case as a country?
In our case as a country, bribery is still too high. And it disturbs me to note that many Ugandans have accepted giving a bribe as if it is part and parcel of accessing a service. Bribery is too high. Then again, as a country, land grabbing. Oh my God! Meanwhile, land grabbing is not supposed to be among the formerly known ways of corruption, but the outcry of land grabbing is too high everywhere near. But again, in the Uganda region, it is higher than in other regions, although it's now spreading all over the country.
Yes.
I was listening to a complainant from Rwampara in Mbarara. They are talking of someone nearly throwing away over 100 families, and that the man already has a land title. We had follow up. So land grabbing is a big challenge. Types of corruption are many. Of course, there is this injustices in offices, the people not accessing their pension and gratuity, others may be dismissed from offices without being given a hearing. Corruption types and forms, there are very many.
Okay.
Again, it all comes back to unfairness, injustice that causes discomfort, and to a big extent, corruption now causes crime.
So you said our main problems?
Criminal acts that happen originate from corrupt tendencies.
Our main problems are bribery, that's where we are doing very well.
Very badly. Very badly.
Land grabbing, you did mention about misappropriation of resources, but I've seen you arrest officials from districts.
Of course. Misappropriation is a word that you people who studied a lot of English use, but it is stealing.
Okay.
It is stealing government resources. Yes, you call it misappropriation and embezzlement, but it is stealing government funds and property.
Okay.
We have definitely been in many government institutions and when the police, like I told you, I heard you say that I am the one that you saw us arresting the OPM officials. It is police that has the mandate to arrest.
Okay.
So we coordinate with the CID officers. Thankfully, the IGP attached detectives to the State House Anti-Corruption Unit, or detective police officers. They are the ones that arrest, they investigate with the lawyers. His Excellency the President appointed to work for the State House Anti-Corruption Unit, and files are taken to DPP. We have investigated a number of government agencies, and we have seen a lot of improvement after our interventions in these government agencies. If you'll give me a chance, I will highlight a few.
Definitely. And our guest tonight is Afande Edith Nakalema Asizwa, the head of the State House Anti-Corruption Unit. She says there are so many forms of corruption, and the reason they are persisting, probably there are a number, like she said and shared in our first segment. We want to know more with her. Could your methods of work be the reason as to why corruption is persistent? What are your methods of work, and could they be the reason as to why the problem is persistent?
Mike, I will once again insist that corruption needs everybody's involvement. Our methods as the agencies in the fight against corruption remain, the key one is coordination, collaboration, and cooperation. Because a case to be presented in courts of law, if it is related to financial loss caused to government, Auditor General is the one to prove. So we have to wait to request the Auditor General to audit and make his report to support the case of the financial loss, which the Auditor General and his office do for us as an agency. Of course, they do also for IGG and all these other agencies. The PPDA will, the ED PPDA and his team are the only ones that can prove procurement irregularities or disposal, government property disposal irregularities. You need the PPDA's report to prove fraudulent procurement of anything for government. So when you saw us involved in the procurement of government relief items in the Office of Prime Minister, the EDPPDA had to prove that indeed the procedures for procurement were not followed. And that's how the case went up to the High Court. The new one, this very case about the substandard items or government relief items to the Kasese flood victims, we are again waiting for the report from the ED, PPDA, but also from the Auditor General. We already have a report from the National Bureau of Standards. Okay. So he has already proved, the institution has already proved that indeed the items were substandard. But I am trying to show you that all government agencies coordinate, collaborate in the fight against corruption.
Don't you have to change something, because that's how you have been doing things, but the problem is just escalating?
What is missing?
Becoming persistent and escalating. Don't you need to change in how you have been doing things going forward?
The only change that we appeal for is for citizenry involvement, full cooperation from the citizens themselves.
How are you involving the citizenry?
Without them, we involve them by having baraza meetings in the early day or in the former days when there was no COVID. Us as anti-corruption unit would go to the citizens themselves, hold baraza style meetings where people talk freely, even where they are chosen are. When we went to Lango sub-region, where we spent 4 days in the 4 districts of Amorata, Lira, Dokoro, and we were there. The citizens gathered and told us the stories that were happening, and they were sad stories because they were telling us the cow, the town clerk, the district engineer in terms of roads, they had a problem of boreholes that government had offered, but they had never been constructed. The citizens are the ones to talk about what they suffer from,
okay,
at the expense or at the high-handedness of the government officials or public servants or public officials. So if we are to change ways, we need citizenry involvement. We need them to guide us where they think the problem is, but also to support the fight against corruption by not only reporting, but going ahead to witness. By the way, the strength in the fight against corruption remains the citizenry witnessing against those that cheat them, those that steal from them, those that deny them the services. So for me, the little experience I have now, these 2 years in the fight against corruption, I know for sure that if every Ugandan made a decision to reject the corrupt, our country will be free from corruption.
You have failed on how to show Ugandans, deep in Iganga, deep in Mbarara, deep in Agago, on how they can be party to your work. Am I right?
At least we have, for us as a unit, I can confidently say that for us...
Because you're expressing wish to work with them,
they
with
haven't
us.
fully,
But you have not showed us how we can work with you.
Reporting, but also witnessing. You don't only report and you don't show what. You see, the corruption, you must when you report a case, when you report an incident of corruption, you must say where, who, and also how. If you because you cannot say Nakalema is corrupt without showing what have I done to you, where did I do it. There has to be some credible information or credible evidence.
Okay.
So in my view, we have not failed. We are moving forward as the agencies in the fight against corruption.
Okay.
What is lacking is the full involvement of every citizen. That's what is lacking. And we are saying that citizens can come on board by ensuring that where they live, where they work, where they go for studies, the students, or even now that there is online studying, when they are on their computers, when they let everybody's eye, ear, hands and legs and feet, let us walk in one direction of looking out for the corrupt to be eliminated, for the all corrupt tendencies to be rejected, and not just reject, but go ahead to fight it. Go ahead to sensitize. We need more sensitization.
Afande
We are doing
Nakalema.
it, but it is not enough.
Afande Nakalema, you can score over 80% when it comes to fighting corruption, especially in the area of misappropriation, what you called theft.
It is theft.
Theft at the district levels and things like that. But when it comes to what the president terms as big fish, you're not vibrant. How much would you score? We feel your presence at the district levels and those cases below there. But when it comes at this national level, when it comes to misappropriation of resources, we don't hear your feet on the ground.
Our feet is there. Mine as Nakalema is too, my feet is too light.
Of course, I'm not talking about you, the individual.
Our feet as institutions are there. And corruption unit has really investigated the top government officials. Let me remind you by figures that the State House Anti-Corruption Unit has of course through the office of DPP, where we stop, the DPP has sanctioned charges against 2 members of parliament, one from Parisa, one from Chisoro South. We've arraigned them before courts of law. We have arraigned a total of 26 accounting officers level. Those include the Permanent Secretary, Office of the Prime Minister, former now, and the 4 commissioners, the CEO of Gaming and Rotaries, you remember when you touch the top, they always go with their juniors.
Okay.
So you'll find that a number of people arraigned before courts of law are very many. For example, we now have 299 persons arraigned before courts of law by the State House Anti-Corruption Unit, working closely with Uganda Police, and of course all those have been prosecuted by the by the DPP. Now the 26 I'm talking about at the accounting officers level, we have the managing director, the former managing director of Post Bank Uganda, who went with 2 executive directors, 3 directors and commissioners. They were, the total were 9. They are before the High Court. We had the ED Nagri. I will tell you that when we intervened in the government relief for the former of the first you call it a wave, the first wave of COVID.
The first lockdown.
It was a presidential directive. His Excellency directed us to quickly find out what the market price of food was at that time, March 2020. Food was still cheap. When the president directed us, we quickly moved, and our intervention saved government 8.65 billion shillings.
Okay.
Because the prices quickly lowered and the people were supplied with food as we took the officials before courts of law, the DPP sanctioned charges, and again, the case is still in the High Court. When we investigated Post Bank Uganda, early 2019, and the MD with the executive directors, the directors, Post Bank profitability increased from 3,365,000,000 to 10 billion.
Taking you back to the OPM, but later on this year, the Auditor General's report actually probably, thanks God for the alert of the President to you, where he didn't alert you, the Auditor General's report came out showing a lot of money that was lost in the procurement of a lot of assortment to do with fighting COVID-19.
We are not going to keep quiet. We are not going to close.
How did you miss that?
Of course, again, until something is reported, you don't go against what has not been known to you or what has not been brought to your attention. But now that the Auditor General's report is out, I believe that all agencies are going to concentrate and see where to clean up.
Isn't that a
now
gap
that there
funding?
is a substantive
Isn't that a gap
IGG,
funding if you don't have eyes and ears on the ground for yourself as an anti-corruption unit?
We cannot be everywhere. Our main mandate was to coordinate with other government agencies, ministries and departments. Until through coordination we get to know what is happening, we will not know.
What happens to the cases that are not reported to you, or where you don't have a directive to go and hunt for whoever?
By the way, we don't wait for the directives. I was giving that example,
okay,
which was a directive. The cases we handle are reported by the citizens. And when they report, we move in. We are a rapid response unit.
Okay.
Whenever we are called upon, we move in very fast. We coordinate with other agencies to help the citizens. That's how we want to thank the honorable courts of law. So far we have 37 persons convicted and sentenced to various, they are in prison serving various sentences. And those that were working for government institutions, they will not serve government for the next 10 years.
Thanks to this program, because the information out there, or the way people look at the anti-corruption unit, is that you handle cases and they die on the way.
Not at all. We have touched big people. They are in courts of law. They are not in offices. They are all out of the 299 we've arraigned before courts of law. The 196 are government or public servants who are not earning their full salaries, they are out of office, they are on interdiction. And so there is a saving for government. We have saved a total of 26 billion shillings. And all that has been proved by the Auditor General's reports, because like I said from the start, it is only the Auditor General that proves financial loss caused to government. So the recoveries, the profitability increment, all that we have been able to achieve as the State House Anti-Corruption Unit, it has been because of the efforts from the Auditor General, efforts from the ED and PPDA and his team. Of course, they work as an office, and all the people all those corrupt persons have been prosecuted by the office of DPP. Okay. We are thankful to the prosecutors and the DPP herself and the former DPP, His Lordship Mike Bitan, the current one, Her Lordship Jenna Bodo. They are focused in the fight against corruption, and when they prove when the investigators take their file and they find it worse, they don't hesitate to sanction. And the honorable courts are also doing us good work. We don't have, we haven't had acquittals. The cases are all moving forward. And actually, before the lockdown, they had organized special court sessions to take away the case backlog. So we are moving forward. We are not stagnating in the fight against corruption.
Do you have any case that you failed on? Have you failed on any case as the State House Anti-Corruption Unit?
I don't know any case that has stalled at the State House Anti-Corruption Unit, but the one confession I must make is that we are getting overwhelmed with the cases that are reported, since they are increasing, and we are a small or an agile unit. We can't handle all the cases at the same time. The cases that we have here are very many, but the ones we have investigated, they have been concluded, they have been sanctioned, and they are in courts of law. Afande,
what happened to a certain case about money that was printed? It involved Bank of Uganda, pellets, whatever. It was so much in the news and everywhere. Did you fail on that one?
No, we didn't at all. We followed up and we rapidly moved into that because it caused a lot of public outcry.
Where did it end?
It ended in court. The director currency was the director currency, the Bank of Uganda, the managers, two managers of one was the manager, Kabare, Bank of Uganda branch. Another one was a manager of, was it Mbare? Yes, Mbare, Bank of Uganda. They were arraigned before courts of law, and we are not the ones who decide how the courts will handle their matter. Okay. But for us, we investigated, and those were the people that the DPP sanctioned charges against, and courts are the ones handling, the honorable independent courts are handling. But clearly, there was no extra printed currency or extra printed money that came. Our investigations proved that the fully chartered PREN for Bank of Uganda money came along with or carried other items for 13 agencies, which we specified. So there was no extra money that was printed, but there was negligence, and those officials were charged with negligence and some other charge because they didn't do due diligence. Okay. A chartered PREN was supposed to only carry printed money. For them to have allowed other cargo to come on the PREN was they were very negligent, and they were charged with a number of counts which I don't recall since I'm not the prosecutor. We didn't fail. We didn't fail.
You are blamed for being used by the corrupt, conniving with them, helping them. to succeed in their games. How true is that?
That can never be. It makes me laugh because I really can never think of anyone even imagining or claiming that they can use us or use me, Nakalema.
But have you had it yourself? Have you had such claims?
We call that smear campaign.
Okay.
We hear it. The corrupt tend to be so big to reach everyone, to accuse those fighting them for being corrupt. They accuse us of being a part of them. And we are not going to relent. We are going to remain focused. We are going to bring them to board. We are going to take them to courts of law. The long arm of the law will get them. Among the
so they reach, you say, they tend to reach where you don't reach.
I am myself and maybe those I work with, we are lucky that we can also reach the high officials or the appointing authority once there is a problem, and that has helped us. Because the corrupt have tried to accuse us of what we can never be. They accuse us of working with them, conniving with them, but we keep asking ourselves, which case has died at our hands that they can refer to? Not even one. Every case that has been investigated under the State House Anti-Corruption Unit is in the courts of law. So for anyone to stand out there and say that we are conniving with them, they are just they are trying to please those they work for or those they steal with, not us. We don't have time to listen to those accusations, but we know for sure that there are a number of people who want to discourage us by tarnishing our names, in calling us corrupt, calling us unfair or using high-handedness.
You see,
not relent.
The Honorable Justice Irene Muliago-Onja made a statement that the corrupt in this country are too big. When you try to run after them, they hide under bigger wings. You seem to agree with her.
I don't agree entirely, but I agree partially, because I'll give one example in this matter, because I was personally contacted by one of the high officials of that time when we were investigating the former ED of NAGRIC, Dr. Charles Lagu. In this, I need to mention this because really he gave me as an individual, had times when he accused me of using the military to witch-hunt him, when it was a total lie. Police was doing their work. There was no army officer. There was a legal officer who was doing his work and was not arresting. But I remember being summoned by, I was called upon, I shouldn't say summons, I was called by the Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament, then Right Honorable Rebecca Kadaga, to go and explain what was happening in my unit with Dr. Charles Lagu. And when I went to her office, I found there the board of NAGRIC, led by the board chair. And I explained, I said, Right Honorable, we are following the law. The Auditor General has already given us a report proving that the ED and his entire top management team have caused government a financial loss of up to 4.6 billion shillings. And she agreed with us, and that's how we have these people in courts of law. But you see, they had convinced the speaker that Nakalema is using her military tactic, her military training, and so these corrupt people can really run up to anyone. A number of ministers called some of my bosses in the army. Then I was pleading. It really drains when you are doing the right work, but you have to defend. You have to defend your actions against the corrupt, because the corrupt have
also fighting for their space.
Yeah, they have a lot of connections in those offices. Corruption is very, very syndicated these days. It starts from down up to the top. So
actually, that brings me to this. There is a word in this country now connected to corruption called Mafia. How true is that? Do we have Mafia in this country? We used to watch such things in the movies.
I personally don't believe that Uganda has reached a level of using the word mafiaism. But I hear it I hear that word once in a while on radios when I have a chance to listen to any radio, and I keep objecting. What is the word mafia? Why should anyone think of the mafia?
When you say we have corruption here that is syndicated, doesn't it mean that?
No, I think syndication means that it's a chain. It's a chain. And so in the chain, I'm not sure that a chain means mafiaism. Okay. So I think there is a distinction which I may not be able to explain. But I again don't think that we have reached the mafiaism level which I use. We hear in the radios or we read in the books. I imagine that our levels of corruption can still be handled if every citizen decided and determined to use every method, to use everything available to fight the corrupt in their homes, in their institutions, in their offices, and in the society at large.
At that very point, Afande, some people think there is no political will. You and I are not politicians, but we have had our brothers and sisters in that domain say, no, there is no political will to fight corruption. We even see people who were once convicted, they're again promoted, things like that. What is your view?
I have heard that, and I keep asking myself, what do these people want government to do, or our leaders, what haven't they done? They have put institutions. They have even put a court to handle corruption. You know, we have the anti-corruption division of the High Court, led by a wonderful judge whose judgment are honored internationally, His Lordship Lawrence Gidudu. There is political will, in my view, because the same political leaders who are the appointing authority, or the appointing authority, has ensured that there are all institutions to fight corruption. The laws are many. These institutions, you can't count, they are many. But as I said, everybody is needed on board. In my view, there is political will, but the leaders, our political leaders, cannot be the ones to put morals in our minds. They appoint us, and we are the ones who fail them. It is about personalities that are trusted with offices. If personalities have failed to do the work that they are supposed to be doing, the blame shouldn't go to the appointing authorities or to the political leaders. For them, the laws have been passed. You know, there are very many laws. now there is government. There is zero tolerance to corruption. There is a Ministry of Ethics and Integrity, where all these agencies, the anti-corruption agencies are. To me, our leaders have done everything possible for corruption to be fought, but they cannot be the ones to change our mindset or to change our hearts and minds, or they cannot be the ones to be everywhere to fight corruption themselves. It needs everybody.
Thank you so much,
Every ear, every eye, everyone is supposed to come on board to fight, to stop the thieves from stealing from our people. We always go for, we prioritize human interest cases, cases where we find the vulnerable persons, like when, and some of these cases are not actually corruption, the direct corruption. The anti-corruption unit coordinated the return of over 500 Ugandans who are stranded in different Arab countries, coordinating with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and different embassies, because Ugandans were there living under dehumanizing conditions, And it was our work to ensure that as we fight corruption, we should give life priority. So we coordinated their return. There were vulnerable youth who had been lied or extorted from by a number of labor export companies.
Yes.
We ensured that over 400 vulnerable youth received their money back from these agencies, and we took
in
to
fact,
court.
Afande, that brings me to my last one now.
We recovered 1.5 billion shillings, which was paid back to these vulnerable poor youth who had been promised profitable jobs in those Arab countries and were never taken. So we took a number of directors of some of those labor export companies to courts of law.
Okay.
They are under the criminal division of the High Court answering charges, and a number of them have been, their licenses were cancelled, others are still on suspension. The Ministry of Gender is now re-verifying the labor export companies that could follow the law, but also follow up on the people they send out there.
We'll end with this one, Afande. During this lockdown at the beginning, you were a strange guest in the bus park.
Yes.
Yes, and now everyone was like, oh, how did she end up in the bus park, and what are the parameters of your work? Where do you end?
You know,
how was that? What was the corruption in the bus park?
There was a lot of corruption in that bus park. Remember, when His Excellency the President launched the unit, he tasked us to listen to citizens' complaints and to respond, to rapidly respond to the public outcry. Regardless of what, where there is a public outcry, definitely there is a problem, and you will define corruption in any way. So, indeed, I was a guest, a strange guest in the bus park on the 8th of June.
Yes.
This year, or 2021, because our children were stranded. The bus managers and maybe owners hiked bus fares in just a day. Places that where they were charging just 30,000, like Kampala, Mbarara, they had gone up to 170,000. Moroto, Karamoja, and they had gone up to some tickets had gone up to 180, even 200. Guru, where? So when we were called upon, actually I was in a meeting with my team. We were discussing cases. Then a concerned citizen sent me a live video of what was in the park, and I called upon the Kampala Metropolitan Commander, then Commissioner Kafero, and I said, this is your line of duty. We must move together because law and order must be kept. Remember, our main mandate is to coordinate with other agencies. I also I quickly called the commissioner in charge of transport and
from the Ministry of Transport.
From the Ministry of Works and Transport, and we moved. We stood in that park for 18 hours, and I personally coordinated again with government agencies. We organized 29 buses from government institutions. I personally called a number of them, and I want to thank the Professor Baze of Makerere. He was the first one who called himself to say, I am offering our buses of Forest Department, and they came. All those buses came fueled, and our children went different directions. And I want also to thank the IGP, and in particular the Deputy IGP, who called his commissioner and said, and later also talked to me, and he sent 17 police lorries that have seats and are covered on top, and 5 buses. So 29 buses, 17 lorries. Our people went. We prioritized the students first, then the pregnant mothers and those that were carrying babies. But later, we ensured that everybody that was in the park was transported free of charge. By 9th December, which was Heroes Day, everybody had been.
So you're working with the police well.
Very well.
The deputy IGP, I had Afande Kafero.
Oh, yes, yes. And the Minister
okay.
of Works.
As we wind up in just a sentence, they are always mentioned as the most corrupt police. Your mother, your home, UPDF, they are so much mentioned when it comes to land grabbing. How are you handling? Because these are areas where we hear you. When it comes to bribery, somebody will say police. When they say land grabbing, UPDF, soldiers. How are you handling your mother, your home, and your friends?
It is unfortunate that our names, us in the security forces, are mentioned in some crimes or unfairness of
rampantly.
Any sort. It's very, very unfortunate, but I would like our viewers and you, my friend Michael, to separate institutions from personalities.
How come you don't handle those personalities?
There are individuals that do those corrupt activities or bad acts of any nature. It is not the institutions. If you will recall, the UPDF handles anyone with an iron hand, as long as the citizens cry out to the leadership of UPDF, they will be handled. The IGP and his deputy, you are seeing what they are doing to their officers. A number of police officers have been dismissed with disgrace. So it is about individuals, not institutions. And
thank you so much,
humanity,
Afande.
you cannot limit, you can't think for any.
So if people come and report to you, UPDF officers that are involved in cordoning off land and things like that, you will not wait to go and handle.
Michael, I'll tell you that so far Anti-Corruption Unit has charged 9 UPDF officers in courts of law, including the UDCs, the unit disciplinary committees, but also courts. Okay. 9 UPDF officers and 22 police officers have also been arraigned before courts of law, investigated by colleague police detectives attached to Anti-Corruption Unit. So we discipline ourselves. We don't. We are not above the law.
Afande, thank you so much for the time and whatever we have shared.
Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity. And our viewers, my last call remains that a corruption-free Uganda starts with me, starts with you. We need collective efforts in the fight against corruption. I thank you.
Thank you so much. Her name is Colonel Edith Nakalema Asizwa. She heads the State House Anti-Corruption Unit. I'm sure whatever we have shared, you have picked a leaf and you know where to start wherever you have to give a hand in the fight against the vice corruption. My name is Michael Jordan Lukomwa with my man, Davis Kamukama, and the producer, Gloria Guitabinji. Wish you the best of the evening. Bye-bye.